was another topic today that I wanted to get your thoughts on, and that was Talanoa Hufanga, or the safety position.
Yeah.
So, the one thing, the Niners tackling, when I went and watched, I went and did my deep dive on the season, and I've got the NFL Plus, so I could go watch the All 22, and I just I watched just a smattering of the All 22 over the weekend of different games throughout the season, and the one thing that keeps coming up is that the Niners are really not good as far as defending the run. And yet they have in Greenlaw and Warner two of the best run defender linebackers in the entire sport. But Greenlaw didn't play this year. Warner played much of the year with a broken ankle, or at least a broken bone in his ankle. The 49er defensive tackles are no longer what they used to be. But the real issue that I'm seeing with the run defense is that the Niners safeties are terrible tacklers.
Oh.
And I'm looking at this, and it wasn't that long ago they had Jimmy Ward and Jaquaski Tart, and they could not intercept a pass, but they were great tacklers. I mean, they were like extra linebackers. But this is according to Sports Info Solutions, these stats. Jair Brown missed 18.3% of his tackle attempts.
Oh my God.
Mustafa missed 19.3 of his tackle attempts. Hufanga, did you see this number, by the way?
Yeah, I didn't see this.
Okay. Talanoa Hufanga, who I love him, is a great dude. Mm-hmm. His missed tackle percentage was 28.3%.
Oh, wow.
So if you ask the Niners, I mean, here's my big concern. Wow. If you talk about Talanoa Hufanga around the Niners, Lynch, Shanahan, they talk about him in these hallowed terms like you're talking about Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott, and you're not. They're not. He's not that guy. And the perception of Hufanga is that he's spectacular. And the reality is far, far less than spectacular. That missed tackle percentage would even be higher if you counted the poor angles that he took at times where he whiffed and was nowhere around. Like on one of those Detroit touchdowns, or was it what game was it where he took the real bad angle? I think it was Detroit. He took a really bad angle, and the guy he took an inside angle, and the guy ran down the sideline and untouched for the touchdown.
The Gibbs touchdown, I think it was. Yeah,
I think that was the Gibbs touchdown. So that doesn't count. That play doesn't count. That doesn't count as a missed tackle, and it most definitely was. So, it would be his missed tackle percentage would be even much higher if you counted the poor angles that he took. He wasn't targeted often in 2024, but he allowed a 90% reception rate to be completed and a passer rating of 106.3 when targeted. So, I mean, Hufanga allowed 62% of his yards to come after the catch. So not only is he taking bad angles, not only is he missing tackles, but he's giving up huge yards because he's out of position. So, and the article that I was reading today was like, hey, the goal at safety should be to maximize Malik Mustafa. And so I think it was Kyle Posey on Niners Nation who wrote this article, and he is suggesting that the Niners go after Harrison Smith in free agency. Now, his contract is void. He's gonna, he's officially a free agent. He's old. I mean, he's 36 next month. This isn't the long-term answer for the 49ers at free safety. But Harrison Smith's missed tackle percentage was a career high this year. It was 17.5%. Okay. That's nowhere close to 28.3%.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit better. And Harrison Smith had been below 14.4% as far as missed tackle percentage every season since 2015. So this is a really smart football player. Harrison Smith had 7 pass breakups this year. Only Renardo Green on the Niners had more pass breakups. Green was targeted 70 times, Harrison Smith was targeted 33 times, and they had a very similar, pass breakup percentage. So I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of building around Mustafa, but
Yeah.
if you talk to the Niners and you mentioned Hufanga, it's like, oh, Hufanga's a special player, but that he misses tackles. He's not great in coverage. He almost has to play in a zone, in a kind of a cover 3 zone, because he's got to, he's much more valuable in the box than he is down the field. Like if you're going to go double high safety, and he's not a coverage player in that regard. He's more of an instinctive cover 3, box safety, where somebody else is covering the deep third and he's up in the line of scrimmage, reading the mesh point and trying to blow up the running play in the backfield. But I just think that Hufanga is a guy that they probably ought to pass on.
Yeah.
I think they ought to go in a different direction. I know Jair hasn't been great, and I know Hufanga makes less mistakes than Jair, but Jair's much more of a hitter. I think he's a better coverage player. And I just don't think that you can have Brown and Malik Mustafa and Hufanga. I think you got to pick 2 of those guys, and the other guy's got to move. You either got to move off of Brown. You're not moving off of Malik. So you got to move off of Jair, or you got to move off of Talanoa. Which one do you want to move off of?
Well, not only that, but Brown and Mustafa are still under contract on a rookie deal. So, I mean, you're going to save money. And I love Hufanga. I think the Niners definitely fell in love with him because of that second year. He was all pro. He was compared to, Troy Polamalu. He had the instincts, and that he made up for the bad angles and the lack of speed because he had game speed and he has the great instincts. Oh, man. And it was amazing his second season. Like, we all thought he was going to return to that, stratosphere. That third year, he was starting to miss tackles at a high rate before the injury. You can see it. He just kind of regressed. He wasn't taking the angles and he wasn't getting the instincts, and he just was missing. He was becoming a liability in coverage. And I think if the Niners bring him back, it has to be a 1-year small prove-it deal to say, hey, look, man, and we got other guys that we need to prioritize. Brock Purdy's got to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. You got Greenlaw, hopefully you bring back. Like, somebody's got to take a hit on free agency. They're going to lose some players, and it's unfortunately a business. So I think Hufanga is going to be one of those guys that doesn't come back. And to his, credit, I'll give him a benefit here. I know he did play with the club on his hand. He had the cast, but that probably didn't help his missed tackles. But he was missing tackles before all that, and he didn't have the speed before. He lost a little speed after the ACL injury. So, yeah, I think Hufanga is a guy that's become a liability. Unfortunately, I know he's a fan favorite. He's probably going to be one of those guys that is going to be moved upon. Just you got to get past him. And as bad as Jair Brown has been, he's still young. I feel like maybe he can kind of bounce back a little bit. Mustafa had a fantastic rookie season. I wouldn't hate going to sign a good veteran in free agency. They did it a few years ago with Deshaun Gibson, and they struck gold. There's some really good players in the draft. So to me, they got to get some speed in the safety department. They got to get a guy that's reliable in tackling, because that was one issue this season. I feel like Fred Warner just couldn't trust anybody out there, and he felt like he was doing it all on his own, and nobody was coming up and helping him. They'd miss tackles, and definitely was an issue with the run defense. So I think they'll move on from him. I think they can get us a nice veteran safety that's a little bit more reliable, or, just use the younger guys. But they definitely do have a lot of questions to answer this offseason, and one of them is going to be, do they feel like Hufanga is worth bringing around back for the team? I don't think that bringing back Talanoa Hufanga is a Super Bowl move. It's like, oh, man, you don't bring Hufanga back, you're not winning a Super Bowl. Like, he's not that elite at this point in his career. It sucks. Like, because, again, he is a fan favorite, but he's not the same player he was when he won that, when he was an All-Pro his second season. He's not the same guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, as I said, I love the guy. I think he's a tremendous guy. I really do. I've nothing but total admiration for Talanoa as a man, as a player. I've said it. I mean, he's the kind of guy that you, as a dad, dream that your daughter grows up and marries, right? Because he's just solid. He's just a solid core, great person. And he's just, I believe wholeheartedly in Talanoa. But when you start take off the your hat as a human being and just start being a cold, cruel film analyst, he, he falls off some tackles in the run game. He's not a big hitter in the run game. He's more of an instinctive attack the mesh point, tackle you in the backfield kind of a guy. But he's not a big hitter, and at times he will out hit his body. He's got some injuries. He's not a great coverage player, so he doesn't run very fast. So I think he's a zone safety who's best in the box in the cover 3. And if you're not going to run the cover 3 at a high clip, then I don't know that I would want him. So that's all I would say about him.